All right, can you hear me?
I can. Oh my God.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
I haven't.
Dianna, thank you so much for coming on today. You seriously are one of the most inspirational women in all of my life. Truly, whether that be personally, whether that be professionally, for the time that we've known each other, you have always been there for me. And that is something that I want you to know, understand, and also recognize that it's relationships that I have with you in the caliber that we do that I don't take lightly. And I want you to know how much I appreciate them. So thank you so much for being on here. And before I just take the whole hour to talk about how much I appreciate you, I want everyone to know who you are. So my first and favorite question is, who is Dianna Hosta?
Oh, Jacob, thank you for allowing me this opportunity. And when I look at you, you make me smile. I have a lot of gratitude for how we met through you starting your business. And I think that's one of the things that really makes Dianna Hosta. Watching people grow, getting people over the finish line. I've done real estate professionally for it'll be 38 years the end of May. And so it's brought so much excitement to my life, and watching families, grow, and they get their keys and they're so excited for the very first time, and then they allow me to help other family members. But the root of who I really am, I was thinking about this, and I thought it back to when I was in 5th grade.
Okay.
And there was a game on the playground called tetherball. It was a pole with a string and a ball attached. Well, from the previous school that I went to, we didn't have that. And so I wanted to play. So I got in line, had no idea, got hit with the ball a couple of times, got, ridiculed on the playground. But I didn't stop. So at dinner, of course, what do your parents ask? How was school? Well, it was horrible. I was on the playground, got hit in the head with a ball with this stupid game. And so I started begging my dad to put up a tetherball in my yard.
Really? In the yard?
in our backyard. Yeah. And I was relentless. So he finally agreed, and we had the only tetherball on the street. And I went out and I practiced all by myself until I got really good. And then went back to school about a month later, and I beat everyone. And I got to be the person that nobody wanted to play anymore because I beat everybody. Well, I didn't do it intentionally. It was just that I just wanted to figure out a way how to be able to be a part of that. And it seems like everything I get involved in, I jump in, both feet, and just really do it. And so it was the same thing when my children, I've got 2 sons, and they're definitely the highlight of my life. And I think my most comical phrase that I use when I'm working with clients, if I say something silly, or I'll say, well, excuse me, I'm being raised by 2 boys. They just happen to be, 35 and 38, or whatever age they were. And I've been doing that for decades now because I always feel like, yeah, did I raise my children? But man, what an experience having children. And like I said, I think we raised each other. They have truly a lot of my habits, and good, bad, or indifferent. But I've also picked up a lot of knowledge and different skills from just watching them grow, which has been also an exciting part of my life. But again, just jumping in with both feet, no matter what I'm doing. That's probably the biggest thing about Dianna. If you ask me to do something, I might not do it the way that you think that it should be done, but but I'll find a way to get it done with my talent. And that's a lot of what I am.
Your view on life is unique, and it's amazingly unique. And when I continue to hear the stories that you have about what you've done, what you've accomplished, and what you have overcome, it's every bit of the reason why I wanted to selfishly share everything that you've been through on this podcast. And, what exactly is this? This is Smile Talk with Jacob. The purpose of it is to bring on masters of their crafts to speak to how they help people develop and enhance their self-esteem and confidence. You have the ability to do that in two ways. You have the ability to influence people's feelings with the stories that you share and your professional life as a realtor, but then you also have the ability to have an emotional and psychological impact by, once again, sharing the stories of the drive that you have. And it's the drive that, from what I just learned, you've had since fifth grade and still have moving forward. You have far more drive than most people will ever even begin to come to the point of understanding. What do you attribute that to?
Jacob, to be honest, when you talk about my drive and my willingness and the things that I've accomplished, I just wake up and it's just there. I don't always understand it. And people have, in my life, my personal life, have to live with it. There she goes again. Or wonder what this is going to, how this is going to turn out, or what's she thinking now? One of the things, it always starts out with a very small seed. I never see the total finale in my mind first. I just know that there's a big picture out there, and that there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. And so as I'm traveling that journey, no matter what it is, either professionally or privately, any of the journeys that I take, it just starts out with this little idea or an inkling, and I can do this. And failure, I don't think it's an option. And for me, failing is an opportunity to learn something new or to find a way to do something differently. And I know that you know that for probably the last 10 years, I've picked a word for the year. And this year, my word is impactful. And I think it's just such a great word for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but that's my word. Reflecting early this year, I had a hard time deciding what my word was going to be, because I do give it a lot of thought. And I realized that I have an impactful being about myself. And I learned that from people like you that share with me, like, oh, you've made a difference, or you said this and it changed my life. And now that I am on the last quarter of my career and not the first quarter of my career like you, there's a lot in between that. And so if I can give someone a nugget that's going to make their journey pleasant and their challenges a little bit shorter and maybe not so hard, I'm willing to share that.
The theme that I have come to understand through having these conversations is support. And it's what I just got done talking about at the networking event that we're a part of. Unless you have support, things are going to be hard. You are most likely to succeed when you have support. And that is what you offer so many people. So many people. Is that something that you have learned? Is it something that you taught yourself? Is it something that you took from an experience? How did you become the amazing person that you are to be so uplifting around all of those around you?
Well, I'm going to tell a very short story. And I don't remember how old I was, but I know that I was in grade school. And I'm actually thinking that I was probably in about maybe third, fourth, fifth grade, somewhere. I wasn't very old. I mean, I was under 10. And a really sad incident happened. The school guard that I had known for many years passed away suddenly, and he lived on my street. Now, I don't know what would make someone actually decide that they wanted to go door to door and collect money so that we could buy him flowers for the funeral. I don't know where that idea came from, but talk about support and being at a young age. I think it was just my parents. I mean, they were always there to help others. My grandmother had this great gift to just make people feel comfortable. And her form was by providing food. She was a great cook, a great baker. So I always remember, like, if someone passed away, you did something. And so, I mean, I think that was just like that small, like I go back to that small seed of just in my family, that's what we did. When someone was hurting or needed something, you just stepped up and did it. And I think that today, it's just second nature to me. I will say one thing. To be on the recipient end is a little bit more difficult for me because, as you know, I've had some major health issues. And I've been the recipient of people wanting to give and spend time and step up to the plate. And it's harder sometimes to receive, but now I know what I've been doing, and I got to experience it on the other end. And it's just really incredible, and that's a gift. To have been able to receive so much fellowship and friendship and just thoughts and prayers and gifts and whatever was needed for other people to be able to step up to the plate. But it's been an exciting ride, and I'm just blessed because I think it's a family thing.
Absolutely. And when you go through such an experience and you start to receive back, in some cases, what you have given, that's when you really understand or begin to understand the impact that you've made on people and the impact that you have around those that are within your circle. It reminds me of an image that I saw, and quite frankly, it's in so much ways what I live by. And that was there on the left side of the picture. It's kind of like one of those like comic strips. So it's like 3 scenes. Okay. The one scene that starts it out is a person drawing of a person, and they're yellow, like bright yellow. And there's a group to the right that's just all gray, and the person in yellow is very happy, and the people in the gray are melancholy and kind of sad looking. Well, this person in the second stage then goes into the middle of that group, and the brightness is then shared with those in that surrounding circle around that person. And then on the outside, it is still dark, and you have those gray, melancholy people. And then that third section is of everyone all yellow. And that does a perfect job of showing all of the support that can be given only starting from one person. And you are that light.
I thank you for that. I really do feel that I've always heard that when you have two people, if you have someone that's really uplifting and someone that might be down in the dumps, it's easy for someone to go down in the dumps with that person. But if you just remain who you are in that positive light, that person eventually, God goes, hey, what's going on here? Why are you so happy? And, you can't be happy all the time. But I think if that is your most of the time when you have that optimistic outlook, it's going to just really make you feel so much better. I remember an incident that happened when I was going through, that I've had breast cancer, and I remember after one of my vigorous treatments, and this was over 15 years ago, and walking outside, went into McDonald's to get an ice cream cone.
Yes.
And I walk outside, and there was all this traffic, and there was this beautiful rainbow. And my thought was, look at all these people. Like they're tooting their horns. They're trying to get through this intersection, and everyone looked like it looked like chaos. And I thought to myself, none of them are seeing the rainbow. They're all missing the rainbow. And I thought to myself, how many days would I have been in that car behaving like those people, trying to get to a real estate appointment, to be on time for a client, or I didn't want to be late, or, being early wasn't even good enough sometimes. I had to be even earlier, and so that I could open up the doors and turn on the lights and make sure everything's perfect. And so I could have been that frantic person in that situation, in that intersection, trying to get someplace, and I totally missed the rainbow. Totally missed the rainbow. And so that was like over 15 years ago. And so now I think, like, look for the rainbows, look for the sunshine, because there's so much negativity in our world that it's almost sometimes impossible to look for that rainbow, because we get so hunkered down in what we're doing, and it's just challenging.
I think that there are two things that can be taken from that example of being in the traffic, okay? Literally, at that moment in time, traffic may be annoying, but let's take a look at a few things, okay? You're safe. You will get to where you're going to be. It's just going to take a little longer. And then think about how everyone is always talking about the past, the good old times, or just the fact of being in the moment. Everything will be okay. Everything will be just fine. So it's, to your point, take a step back, take a deep breath, and just recognize that this is what the moment is, and we'll get to where we need to be. But that's not without some traffic. And that's where we get into the metaphorical aspect of it too. Live in the moment. Don't disregard responsibilities. Don't disregard expectations that either you have for yourself or other people have on you. But recognize that, once again, everything will be fine.
Yes. And what comes to mind when you mention that, our good old moms, right? Oh my gosh. New in real estate, have a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old.
That's when you started your real estate career, during that time?
Yeah, I actually,
Wow.
My oldest son was a year old when I started. And then a few years later, we had the second son, Michael. And so I had my Dan and my Mike, and they were very active. And so I remember, trying to put together a real estate transaction. And of course, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have computers and laptops at home. We had to go to the office, and things were so different. You had to write paper on carbons and actually hand deliver them. And so, it was just a different time. And I remember being so frustrated on the phone. And I was frustrated because, it was with the buyer's financing that I absolutely had no control over. But all I could think of is, what if they don't get the house? And, oh my God, we have closing dates, and what are we going to do? And I was so frantic. And I remember talking to my mom, and she said, now, Dianna, God does not let things work out for the worst. Pause. I'm like, I don't get it. I'll talk to you later. That was just being young, frustrated. I was just focused on that financing. I couldn't see the big picture. And, in the end, things worked out the way that they were supposed to. Sometimes we get frustrated the way things or the hand that we're dealt. It's just, believe it or not, I think it'll be 2 years in May that, when I got my reoccurrence diagnosis. Things didn't look good, didn't look very bright. But yet, through it all, and treatment's not working, and then trying to find other alternatives, and then going through major surgery. And I'm here today, and I'm like walking fine, and I'm my new self. I had to grieve a lot of things that I can't do anymore. That people think that, oh, well, you can just go do that. And I just had this experience of getting cleared to go downhill skiing again.
Oh, nice.
Public announcement. My family's not too happy. They think that I should just be walking around the block to start.
Yes.
But the adventurous side of Dianna wants to get up on that, double black diamond and have some fun going down, seeing the challenge. But I also shared recently that when you can no longer do something, and being told that you can't do something is way different than knowing that you have the clear to do something and that you can do it, but you choose not to. So that was a new revelation for me. And I know I had to kind of take a step back and think about that, because my first inkling was, let's get those boots on, let's get on that hill, and let's see what we can do. But today I can pause and think, yeah, I could do that if I chose to do it, but I don't have to choose that today. I can stay safe. I can walk around the block. I can help my real estate clients. There's a lot of things that I can do in my life that bring me joy. I could go home and bake cookies. It's kind of an inside joke, but
Is that right?
but anyhow, I could do some simpler things that bring me joy.
And that brings light to a cycling class that I went to a couple weeks ago. Hayden was the instructor over at Crocker Park Cycle Bar, and part of the motivation on a weekday early in the morning was, you made the choice to come in here today, and you have the ability to be able to do this today. And that's an opportunity that not everyone has, and to no fault of their own, because everyone's going through something different. Yeah. The opportunity to know what you're capable of doing, what is appropriate for you to do, and then what opportunities are presented to you based on either things that you do or don't have control over. Acknowledgement and awareness of all of those are what's going to help you formulate a life that you can find purpose in and that you can look forward to. But, it's all a mindset, and we can focus on the positivity as much as we possibly can. But there are also periods of where you're just like, gosh, like this is so hard, or this is so tough, or it's just like, I want to find the good in this. And if you dig and search long enough, you will find that. But what have you done to really focus on those positives so that you are not overcome by a negative mindset that's really going to do no good?
Well, when you were telling that story, what came to mind was back in 2006, when I was initially diagnosed with my breast cancer. They had the Susan G. Koman 3-day walks, 20 miles a day for 3 days, total of 60 miles. So one of my very good friends, her sister also had been diagnosed several years before me with breast cancer, and she was doing very well, and she lived up in Chicago, and so they had a Susan G. Koman walk up there. So my friend decided that she was going to do that in honor of me and her sister. Well, I was laying on the couch because I was not feeling very well after treatment. And there was this commercial for the 3-day walk, and it was going to be, for the very first time, they were hosting one here in Cleveland. We called each other simultaneously, and I said, I'm doing the walk. She goes, you can't do the walk. I said, well, why not? It's here in Cleveland. Now I don't have to go to Chicago. She goes, you were never going to Chicago. Do you know what you're going through? And I was like, yeah, but it'll be okay. I mean, it's only 20 miles a day for 3 days.
Goodness.
So I was ill, and so I went online immediately and found that they were having a talk about how to get involved with the Susan G. Koman 3-day breast cancer walk. So I called a dear friend and I said, oh, I can't wait until they have it at the West Side Library. I need to go to the one in Solon. Can you drive me there? Because I'm not feeling very well. So she takes me there. We listen to their talk. I have the registration filled out before they even start talking. And I kept looking at my friend and I'm like, what would be a good team name? And she goes, I don't know. I never thought about it. I go, me either. I said, you need a team name. And she says, well, how many people are going to walk? I go, well, I don't know that yet. And so all of a sudden the name came to me. And the team name is Celebrate Life. And I remember leaving that meeting going, that's me. I'm just going to celebrate my life. And we're going to celebrate all the people that we know that have been subject to this terrible disease. And we knew quite a few of them, and I did not know at the time, but 4 months later I did lose my best friend to breast cancer at that time, and she had just had her 50th birthday. And so that was really difficult. But I think about the time that I spent with her, and she was still celebrating life even at the very end and fighting and talking about, I know that I'm going to be here on a rocking chair seeing my grandchildren. I mean, her wisdom and her zest, her mental zest for life. So Celebrate Life was the perfect name. I do have a container up on my mantle. If you ever come to my house, you can see it. It was gifted to me, and it says Celebrate Life on it. And so I think no matter what challenges that I've had to face, and even if I'm not celebrating the best day, it's my day.
Make every day your own.
Exactly. It's amazing what happens when you put things out into the world. And mind you, I was actually going through my chemo treatment at that point, and they give you a training schedule. So you start out like walking a mile, and then 6 miles, and then 10 miles, and then 13 miles, and on until you get up to doing a training walk of 20 miles. So anyhow, as the story goes, we ended up with 17 people on the team. Actually had 3 people fly in from Las Vegas that were walking for their family. Had a dear friend that came up from Charleston, South Carolina, and many local friends that walked in that very first walk with me. And we raised $47,000.
What?
Yes, we were the second highest team to raise that much money. The only one corporate team won the other, and we were very competitive because that was Third Federal.
Yeah.
So being a realtor, having Third Federal beach out.
Right.
Oh well. But that walk, there were so many memories during the walk. It was a very emotional time. I had I ended my last chemo treatment was May 15th, and we did the 3-day walk July 30th, 31st, and August 1st of 2007. And the most memorable thing, the gal that I talked about that was going to do the walk in Chicago, yes. She was walking with me, and she asked me, she goes, why do you think we're walking? And I said, well, we're bringing awareness to the community. It gives people hope. I said, at that point, I hardly had any hair yet. grown back. And I said, it's just really neat to have survivors come up to me and say, oh, I'm, 3 years out, 5 years out, 2 years out, 10 months out. I mean, because I wasn't even a year out. And she goes, did you ever think that we were walking for you? And I said, that never even occurred to me. And that was truly from my heart. I had no idea. I was doing it for the people that I was paying it forward to people that I didn't even know. And here people that I knew were doing it for me. And so that's probably one of the things that when I say like that little seed, I don't see the big picture in the end because I'm doing it for others.
That seed, that big picture, I want to really hone in on that because a lot of people see a big picture as the motivation or the reason to keep going. And that can be okay. Everyone is motivated in the ways that they are to accomplish the goals that they set out for themselves. But what I have learned and what people have said is it's all about the process. Trust the process, enjoy the grind, do the work, and then you will ultimately get to that big picture. And when I heard you explaining your process of having these small ideas with a big picture in mind at the end, I think personally that's what's contributing towards your success. You have these ideas, you put together a plan, and then you work on making that plan as successful as it can to be able to succeed with the intention of getting to that big picture. So in other words, you understand everything or you take into account everything that needs to be done prior to getting into that big picture. There's so many people that want to just jump over all of those steps that you recognize are important.
Yes, and I think the other thing too, it comes down to like your support. I had a huge support system. We did a golf outing. Who does a golf outing and plan it in 3 months? We didn't have any golfers, so I did the next best thing. I picked up the phone and started calling people and telling them that they had to come to this golf outing.
Yes.
There's no option. You're doing it for me.
Literally.
I guess my persuasive tactics need to be a little honed. But I think the one thing, the ask. Mm-hmm. And I think the realization is that people really do want to help you if it's a good cause. And if you're really behind the cause and they understand the cause, they're willing to help you. Same thing in my real estate career. People give referrals because they want to help me. They know that if they refer to me, that client is going to be in good hands. I'm working with a lot of younger people right now, and I feel like I'm adopting them as my children, and they really appreciate that. And so I smile about it, and too, like in our networking now, I've been like deemed like the godmother of the networking group, and they keep apologizing. No, it's not about age; it's about wisdom. So, and I think it's the support outside between the seed and the big picture, that people are there along the way for you. And I think sometimes you don't even realize that they just want to help, or an idea will just cross your mind. And that's the one thing that I've really learned, that I can't act on everything that pops in my mind because that would get me in lots of trouble. But to hone an idea, if something pops in your mind and it's kind of pulling at your heartstrings, it's probably the right thing to do. So I think that's a lot of that just comes with time. And I think the other thing is letting other people come into their own, letting them figure out with maybe some guidance, or even sometimes letting people know, like, it's going to be okay. I know that this is hard. I know this is horrible. I have a different level of empathy, maybe because of some of the things that I've gone through. But again, sometimes I don't have enough empathy for others because of what I've gone through. So it's kind of that double-edged sword. I really, I see it in my day-to-day life like, oh my God, you can't possibly be whining about that.
Yes.
And then I think, oh, that could have been you 30 years ago or 20 years ago or 10 years ago. So I just kind of chuckle at myself in sometimes of that double-edged sword. As good as some things are, they can also turn on you in a different direction.
I am so unbelievably appreciative and fortunate for where I have found myself in my life right now, because it gives me the opportunity to speak with people that, let's just say, a normal 26-year-old wouldn't, which gives me the opportunity to see all of these different perspectives. And these perspectives are coming from all walks of life that have pulled from this, like every bit of the conversations that I have with people, they've all gone through something different. In some cases, they've gone through the same thing, but had totally different outcomes. The opportunity to learn from these people, to learn from you, to learn from anyone that, let's say, has a level of success that I'm looking to achieve, it's so valuable. And to your point, it all starts with an ask. And more people, as you had also mentioned, want to help. Sometimes they just don't know how to.
Exactly.
So ask. If you are looking for a way to excel professionally, excel personally, or relationship-wise, anything, my advice would be to find someone who is at a stage in which you want to be and ask them questions. Find someone who's on their way towards that goal that you're also looking to achieve. Ask them questions, learn about their experiences. And then also find someone who has the same goals that you're looking to achieve, that's at your level, so that you can go through it with someone. That is what I believe is going to be, in some which ways, the fastest track towards achieving your goals.
Exactly. What comes to mind is I was one of the youngest real estate agents in the office, late 20s, and it was predominantly men and older women. And so I remember the one woman realtor that would come into the office. She'd get there about 11 o'clock, and I kind of had a split day because I would go home and do some child care stuff. And then, it was like a three-ring circus, trying to be at the right place at the right time and all of that. And I would come back in the evening to do some work, and she would be there. And I would be like, "Are you here all day?" And she goes, "No, I was with clients, and I went out and showed homes, and then I've got this other seller that's getting their home ready, and I was over at their house this afternoon." And I would sit next to her, and I go, "When I grow up, I want to be just like you." Now, fast forward about 15 years, and we were sitting at an awards banquet. And I said, "I remember, and do you remember? We used to sit next to each other, next to the computers. And I always used to say, I want to be like you when I grow up." And she looked at me and she said, "Dianna, you exceeded me." And that was like a huge, big, oh my God, that was a tremendous compliment to receive. One, because she had been a top producer year after year, but she was like that silent producer. She just went in and did her work, went home, came back, and started again. And that was my example. Yeah. I was never flamboyant, and I remember when they used to run contests in the office about, production things, and everyone would say, "I don't know why we're going to bother, Dianna's just going to win." And I would go, "What? They're like, you win everything. And I looked at them and I said, well, I'm not doing anything. I'm just working. And so it was like, they're like, you're so competitive. And then I started thinking about it. I would be like, yeah, I guess I am.
You are.
But I'm competitive with Dianna. But maybe I could be competitive with you too, Jacob, depending on if we're on a ski hill.
True.
So, I mean, I think I've just always been so competitive, like in a silent way.
Yeah.
And I guess we go back to the tetherball, don't we?
Literally. That's what I'm saying. Like, you amaze me.
Oh.
Like, literally, you amaze me. I mean, it is no wonder you are as successful as you are now professionally and fulfilled as you are personally. Because let's go back to the start. Mindset. You have the right mindset and drive to accomplish any of the goals that you set out to achieve.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think it's just one step at a time. You know, it's the journey, not necessarily the destination. It's just the journey and what road you're going to take and what people are you going to associate yourself with. And like you said, when you want to learn something, go to the expert, sit next to, pay attention, watch the people that are successful. You know, they say that if you're going to hang out in an office, that might be the wrong place to be. You need to be doing what you're doing, Jacob, finding the people that, you know, you want to become more like or that have had great life experiences and that can share them with you. And because you don't know what your experiences are going to be down the road, but you're going to be prepared because you're going to have a lot of different pieces of knowledge that will help you not only tackle, but get through. Sometimes we don't need to tackle something. We just need to find the way through and get to the other side and see what that brings. But like with my career with real estate, I've just enjoyed it so much. Helping a seller get from point A to point B, whether it's going from Cleveland to another suburb, you know, moving to Westlake or Rocky River or Middleburg Heights or wherever they're going, east or west, you know, let me be their trusted advisor. How do you do that? You know, you do it by sitting down at the kitchen table and having those conversations. Being prepared for things that are going to come up during it. I have one this week that, you know, they were all ready for the market and they have issues getting their stuff moved to Michigan because they had a car incident. Well, no worries. Plan B. We just move things to next week. We don't turn it into a crisis. We just figure out what is our workaround for today. But it's brought me so much joy that I like to feel like I'm not creating the problem. There may be a problem, but looking for the solution. And I think I've always been that way. My colleagues, when I'm working with other realtors or other affiliates like banks and title company, it amazes me how like word gets back to me, how they talk about me. And they're always like, she's so nice to work with. And I laugh. I'm like, me? I'm nice to work with? And I chuckle like that because when things need to get done or things get tensed, I'm very focused and I'm very matter of fact. And I know sometimes that could be taken the wrong way. But in the end, people really appreciate that because someone made a decision and someone figured out a way to make the situation palatable to get to the next step or learning from it and saying, oh, well, we can't do it this way. Had no idea. So how do we go about this now? And coming up with solutions instead of trying to create problems.
You are helping people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives. People aren't moving houses every year, every other year, every 5 years. There are some people who have been in their house for decades. Now, there is this whole new generation who's coming in to purchase housing. And you said that you have had an influx of younger clientele, where do you see them needing the most help, and where do you provide the most value?
Well, I think this is a portion of the generation that went through the down economy with their parents. So their faith in home ownership is not exactly one of strength. And now we're going into a market with housing prices like booming, and the house values just increasing rapidly, something that we haven't continued to see in a lot of decades. So what they are looking for now is just to have that confidence of knowing that home ownership is the right thing for them. And it is for the most part, but then there's also people that aren't ready for home ownership, and that they just need to take a pause and see where they want to live before they jump into it. So I think most of it is like the nurturing, answering of questions, the expertise of what happens from the time that we sign a contract. How do we even make an offer? What are all the steps? So just in a lot of conversations, just bringing all of those things to light. I start answering the questions before they can ask the questions, because my philosophy is that they don't even know the questions to ask. And so we have like this little game sometimes that we'll play, and it's like, oh, now you need to ask about home inspections, and this is how they work. And so we just kind of chuckle about that because they don't know the questions to ask. So I post things in their mind of things that they need to know, in a very kind and thoughtful way.
You said it yourself, you are providing confidence behind the decisions that they have the opportunity to make. And you're right, house prices have gone up significantly, but housing prices have gone up significantly. I've noticed for what has become a little more popular, these townhouses. Yeah. And I mean, that's what I've got my sights set on. I think that there's something so cool about being in somewhat of a more compact space, surrounded around other people, and also being a part of a community where, I mean, I understand that you're paying probably like an HOA fee, but having things be taken care of for you. Like, you know, I'm a single guy who doesn't want to be pushing a lawnmower, a push mower on the weekends. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, and that's a lifestyle choice. And we also have, baby boomers that don't want to give up the big house because they still have their kids coming back for the holidays. But yet they need the first floor master, and they need a place to store all their stuff. But they don't want to mow lawns, and so a cluster community is, better for them. And then I work with young families that, the big thing right now are dogs and fences. Really? People that don't have children, but man, do they love their dogs, and they have to have a certain kind of fence and a this and a that, and so every person has their own individual needs, and listening to in conversation what is important to them. What's important to you is community, being in a compact space, being able to possibly just, I know you want a good view. That I do know.
True.
Yeah, you want a view. So again, just putting all those pieces to the puzzle together, but most of all, just listening to what their needs are, and also forecasting for their future. I just think of like some of the people in our BNI family, and we have families that are growing now, baby number 2, and so it's one of those things that just trying to see for the future too. And the other question that I ask my young clients, and they never think about it, like, how far away do you want to be from your recreational things? Like, what do you mean? Well, do you golf? Do you like hiking? What do you like to do? And they're like, well, we're going to have to go home and think about that. Because, again, they're just thinking brick and mortar. I'm thinking the big picture as how is this house? Are you here for 3 years? Are you here for 10 years? I have more younger people buying 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath homes because they're preparing for their family that they don't even have. Some of them aren't even with a significant other yet. And I chuckle, but it's interesting how people think differently and how they plan, and that they do rely on me for that.
Do you find there being an emotional connection to the house that differs between a younger generation versus the older generation at this point? Because I feel like I know some people who have been in their house for like literally 40 or 50 years. And then but it's like, I don't see myself having an emotional attachment to a house, but I am also not a homeowner and haven't been able to experience it, nor make the memories of it or this or that. So I just wanted to know, is that something that's like a thing that you've realized as a trend or in a pattern, or not really?
Well, one of the things that I find, because of marketing today, and of course everyone has to watch HGTV, and they see those perfect homes and the homes that are perfectly staged and all of that. So I feel like people detach that emotionally sooner because they depersonalize it. And the other thing, when we talk about buyers and having emotions for a home, with the real estate market in the condition that it's in, and that we're finding that some buyers are writing, I've been with a client that has written up to 8 offers and not got a home yet. So there's no emotion, because after the first time, they were heartbroken, and they're like, we're not going to get attached until we know that we have the keys in our hands. So I think over the last probably 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, when we've been in this brisk market of not a lot of inventory, multiple offers, it is really harder for a buyer to get emotionally ingrained in the home. And sometimes I've actually had buyers back out of the marketplace and then come back in and go, all right, I got thicker skin now, let's try this again. So it's such a competitive market right now. Will that change anytime soon? I don't know if you saw what Zillow posted, but we are the number 2 place to live.
Really?
In the country. Yes. Talk about putting it out there. Yeah, Cleveland, Ohio, number 2. Imagine that. Number 1 is Charlotte, North Carolina, and number 3, yes, it's Pittsburgh.
No way.
Yeah, way.
Interesting.
So with that said, we are getting a lot of investors that are trying to purchase here. It's a changing market for us. So that emotion that we used to be able to really see and experience and have some time to savor is kind of being snatched away from our buyers right now.
That was so beautifully said, because what it allows us to do is understand how important of a decision that is going to need to be made at some point. Like you said, you're looking out far enough into the future and potentially bringing to light considerations that people haven't even truly thought about or thought to be important, or just it hasn't crossed their mind.
Exactly. And, I see a lot of newer realtors coming into the marketplace. I mean, right now, statistically, it's the highest number of realtors that we've ever had in the state of Ohio. And so I feel sometimes like, oh my gosh, I'm like the dinosaur amongst the young minds, and and all of that, and the social media and all of that thing, all the new stuff, the technology and all of that. And I always used to say that I feel like I'm like on the bleeding edge sometimes of technology, because I always want to try the new stuff. One of the biggest things that I learned during COVID, and it was a huge compliment, I do a monthly group with realtors, and we just, talk about, we have a topic, and we just talk about what's going on in the market and how we can support each other. And so the one realtor she's 10 years younger than me, and she says to me, she goes, how do you know about all this technology stuff? I don't even know how to work this stuff. And I said, well, I've had a Zoom account. Like, you don't have one? Like, she's looking at me and she's like, no, I don't have one. And so we were like comparing notes. And she said, you've always been that one that jumps in and tries to learn something new. And so sometimes I feel that, okay, the social media, not my thing. It's just not my thing. And then all these new realtors are coming in and they're talking about how they're getting all their clients off of social media. And I feel left behind. And then I look at the end of the year and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had a great year. I had a phenomenal year. And it's all because of relationships. And just because I do my relationships different and I'm not out on social media as like that superstar and throwing up all of the stuff that, oh, I listed a house this week, I sold 4 last week. I don't do any of that. I get the silent or the small things like our great home inspector, Dan Gibson, saying, oh, I see Dianna once a week. So that must mean what's she doing once a week? She's selling a house. So it's those kind of things, those silent messages in the relationships.
The face-to-face contacts and relationships that are made, whether that be through introduction or just that initial meeting, that is what is truly going to drive success of a business, of an industry that's so people-oriented. That is why you are successful. You don't necessarily need the technology. And I'd be curious, once you start peeling back the layers, how much it is actually beneficial versus, like, it doesn't matter if a real estate agent who made a TikTok about the house that they're showing gets 10 million views, because who's seen that?
Right.
Maybe someone in California because the algorithm pumps it out when they're not even in the market to purchase. So who is going to be the serious buyer? That's going to be a referral from one of your long-term clients who has a son, daughter, grandchild who is purchasing a house. It's going to be someone that you sold a house to 10 years ago who's looking to get into a new house. And what you are going to do is give them the opportunity to make the decision that is best for them. And they are going to come out with a smile. I 100% guarantee that. And you are serving smiles each and every day. But I wanted to ask, what makes Dianna smile?
Good health. Good health. I mean, that is one thing that really makes me smile, is just knowing when I feel well. That makes all the difference in the world. Family. I love my family to death. It's just the simple things. I love to cook.
Right?
Yeah, I love to cook. And I don't do as much as I used to, but I made a dish last week. I made vegetarian chili, and it was like so yummy. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot how much I love to cook. So it's kind of like discovering things. That's what makes me smile. Just hanging around people that care about people. So much of it is my adventurous side. That hugely makes me smile. Oh my gosh. I just love adventure. Just doing different things, learning different things. And I think the biggest thing is when you're in an elevator and you smile and you try to get other people to smile, I think it's just fun. Like hearing someone laugh makes me smile. I don't know what they're laughing about, and I'm over the fact that they could be laughing about me. Because if they are, I'm just going to join them. So that makes me smile. And when I really dig deep about what really makes me smile is knowing that I'm leaving a footprint and I have a legacy that I've touched many lives. I've been privileged to touch many lives. And many lives touched me that made my life special. And now I get to do it and leave behind that great legacy. And that really makes me smile, that I was important to someone and that I made a difference.
So on behalf of every single person that you have made such a positive impact on, I wanted to thank you. And then I also wanted to take a moment to just, because you're always moving, you're always busy, you're always doing something, that I just want to say right now, stop. Stop for a moment and acknowledge all of the good that you've done, all of the positive things that you have allowed people to feel, and just know that we all love you so much and we're always going to be here for you. So thank you so much for sharing every bit of what you did today. Like I said, I don't know if you understand how much respect I have for you, how much I appreciate our friendship, and how you're just amazing. So thank you for being you.
Oh, Jacob, thank you. Talk about having a privilege and actually doing a podcast. How about that? Oh my God, something new I can add to my list of adventures that I did. My very first podcast with Jacob Carno.
Well, thank you so much again for coming on today.
All right, thank you.
Thank